I'm on the streets of downtown Pittsburgh on day 2 of the G20 summit. A lot like the G8 summit, but with a few more countries involved. The impact of the G20 summit on Pittsburgh is quite dramatic, and over the last day and a half and today, there's been a lot of expense and a lot of lost business due to the G20 coming to town. Let's take a look and consider the impact of events like the G8 and the G20 coming to town on their micro level. What happens when all these world leaders come to town? What happens when 5,000 media and journalists descend on a city? Pittsburgh, for its part, rolled out the welcome mat. That welcome mat included thousands of police officers and barricades that protected the city and restricted movement. Many businesses decided not to open. The police presence left the downtown much like a ghost town, with very few businesses open. In fact, on this street, in this little corner, 2 businesses chose to stay open. All the rest barricaded up. I stopped in to have a talk and find out what the impact of the G20 was on business in the downtown core of Pittsburgh.
Well, it's definitely been pretty slow in comparison. I mean, nobody's downtown.
In fact, the thousands of journalists that many people may be hoping are going to be filling the seats in their restaurants and cafes don't get around town the way you think they might. Fully accredited journalists are shuttled in and out of the secure conference facility by police-escorted bus. And those that aren't accredited and are staying outside often have as much difficulty moving around.
Oh, and like in comparison, like I would say like there's a definitely a fairly large difference in like the amount of customers.
Well, come on now. All these journalists in town, they must be going to restaurants and jazz clubs.
Since I run a jazz club upstairs, it's been closed since the G20 started.
Is that right,
Because I can't get my musicians in here.
Right.
Can't get their equipment down here. So regardless of what I do here, that's a total loss up there.
So these are primary operating days that they just close. The city basically.
Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays are our biggest days between the club and the bar and a restaurant.
Right.
So there's a club and restaurant upstairs, Little East Jazz Club, and we do live music. And we haven't been open this week at all.
At all?
At all.
Did the shutdown of things start earlier in the week then?
Started on Wednesday.
Right.
And once they started barricading and blocking, a lot of musicians started calling saying, "No, we're not coming down, and we're not going."
So you're essentially losing a week's worth of income.
I'll lose when it's all said and done. I'll be depending on how the day goes. Because yesterday didn't go that badly for the downstairs, and it was just because of the newscast. Because most of the news people came there after the newscast, where they felt bad for me. But I'll be off by 50 or 60% in total revenues for the week.
The economic impact of the G20 meeting in Pittsburgh on Mahoney's is pretty significantly, and Little Ease is pretty significantly.
For a little guy like me, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of the long-term benefits of hosting the G8 in Pittsburgh?
I'm glad you asked that. I really think that long-term it could be good for the city. Mm-hmm. I believe that long-term media is highlighting the city in a very positive picture.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully, I hope that it'll bring in some large corporations from international corporations that might want to bed down in Pittsburgh.